Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome back to St. Robert's Day Game podcast. In this week's episode, I'm interviewing Wolf, who has been living as a digital nomad for the last 3-4 years. Wolf has lived all over the world in places in South America like Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, a little bit of Mexico, places in Southeast Asia like Vietnam and Thailand. He has lived in Australia, traveled around New Zealand and Iceland, and in many of the most beautiful cities in Europe, for example, Barcelona, Paris, Rome, Budapest, etc. Wolf is telling his story. He's telling how he found a well-paying remote job without having any previous experience or even education or knowledge about the industry. And he also goes over the things he would have done differently from the beginning if he knew what he knows now after living this lifestyle for years. We go over different cities and what's the best place to go to if you want to maybe become a yoga teacher or a spiritual teacher or start another spiritual practice. And where should you go if you want to do something more digital, maybe digital marketing, maybe it's SEO, affiliate marketing, and things like that. And in general, what are the best destinations for starting digital nomads? I'm St. Robert, and on this podcast, I usually talk about how guys can improve their dating lives and start meeting girls they really like, whether that's in a city they live or anywhere they choose to travel to. But lately I've started inviting guests to talk about other topics I'm interested in, and I know that a lot of you are interested in those topics as well. For example, digital nomads, online entrepreneurs, topics like psychedelics, martial arts, sex, etc. You can find out more about what I do by heading over to my website strobert.blog, that is strobert.blog. Or if you want to learn the exact date model I teach my dating coaching students, simply head over to daygamecourses.com and watch my free video courses. But now, let's get down to the conversation with Wolf. Hello, my dear church boys, and today we're here with a friend of mine, Wolfie, a guy I met in Budapest last year when we were there with Mario, roaming the streets of Hungary. And we kind of hit it off really well with Wolfie, did some park grappling, and then we spent some time together again in Tulum and Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Had some wonderful, colorful adventures on a beach. Let's call them like that. And Wolfie is or Wolf. By the way, Wolf is your real name, right?
Wolf is my real name. That's correct. Yeah.
That is incredible. How your parents decided to call you a wolf. That is really cool.
Well, they're very crazy and creative people, so I think that has to do with it for some reason.
So that's where your creativity or your persona comes from, because you're this kind of extroverted. I think you're actually in a way introverted, but you're this kind of colorful character that people love being around. And you're really young, right? How old are you? Like 25-ish?
Actually, I'm 28.
28. I thought you were younger. And you've been traveling the world and living nomadically you don't really do the hopping from city to city. You spend more time in each city, and you're a digital nomad. How long have you been doing your nomadic lifestyle?
So basically, I started traveling my last year of uni. I had a half a year free because I had to finish my thesis in the second semester, and I started traveling in Southeast Asia. I was there in Thailand and the surrounding countries. And after that, the next year, I came across a friend of mine who was working online, and I asked him how he did that. And after a whole process, I ended up working for the same company as he did, and that was 2017 November. So that has been almost 4 years, with the last year included is like 5 years almost.
Yeah. And you started with Southeast Asia, and so what do you do now as your digital nomad business thing? What's your thing now?
So I currently decided to quit working with the affiliate project. It was basically a financial comparison website, and I was responsible for the Dutch market in the Netherlands. And I decided to quit that job and start working for myself. And I decided to start a YouTube channel. So right now I have a YouTube channel where I talk about everything regarding self-development, relationships, psychology, spirituality. It's a very broad kind of like channel that is touching on a lot of different topics, and I'm still kind of like figuring out my niche. But this is what I'm doing right now. I'm shooting videos daily, and I aim to turn this into my full-time business.
Okay. Uh, so when you were doing the affiliate stuff, was it like a freelance thing or were you working for a company?
So I was a freelancer. So I had my own company, and I was invoicing the company for the work that I did, but I was kind of like an employee that was only working for this project. So it was a special setup where I had my own company and I was invoicing the company that I was working for, but I was doing that full time. So I didn't do any other gigs on the side.
And how did you start? Because I want to cover kind of the whole journey. Because the whole reason why I wanted to have this conversation is to show guys that there are very different ways how you can start living this nomadic lifestyle. And someone might do this freelancing thing. Someone might work for a company. Others might start their own online business. So I kind of want to go from how you started to how you became kind of good and were making enough to support your lifestyle, and now how you decided to quit and start your own YouTube channel, which, guys, by the way, will be linked in the description below this video, or if you're listening to this on podcast, then in the podcast description there will be a link to Wolf's YouTube channel. So how did you start? So you said you met your friend and you worked for the same company. Was it the same company you worked all these years, or was there like a transition to different companies, or what's the story there?
Okay, so the first time I traveled abroad to Southeast Asia was during my studies. So that was as a student. I was not working online at all. It was kind of just like a break, but I was working in a bar back at the time. So I had some savings, which allowed me to actually travel to Southeast Asia. But while I was there, I was not earning any money. Now, when I met my friend here in Budapest, actually, I applied for a job offer that he sent me a month after we met, and I got the job after my application was successful. And so I worked with this company since November 2017 until 4 months ago or something that I decided to quit. So I was with the same company all the time, and it was basically a project that started out almost from scratch. I was a girl who was leading this project before I started, but she was not really performing well. And then I overtook the project and I actually made it into something worthwhile that was able to sustain me financially. I was making enough money to travel and save money because I was kind of preparing myself for eventually starting something for myself, which requires, of course, an initial financial investment. And I wanted to make sure that I had enough resources to be able to sustain myself for a prolonged period of time until my next endeavor became a success. Because right now with the YouTube channel, I'm not earning any money. And so I need to sustain myself based on my savings.
Of course. So what was the field you were in when you were working at this company?
So it's a finance project. So basically, it's a financial comparison website which focuses on listing different financial products, and people can compare the ones with the best rates or the best reviews. And then if they click through to the actual company that provides these services, for example, we have a page where we compare loans. And if they pick one of the loans and they click through and they take a loan at the loan originator, then we get a commission. So it was all about optimizing the content on the website, making sure we had the right deals going with the affiliate partners, optimizing for traffic, adding call to actions, doing email marketing, etc., etc. So there was a lot of online marketing going on. And the main focus was basically SEO, which stands for search engine optimization. So I had to optimize the website so it would show up in the Google search results whenever people looked for terms like what is the best loan, what is the quickest loan, stuff like that.
And so I know that those loan companies were, and correct me if I'm wrong, those were the loan companies that offer pretty substantial rates, right? Like the
Yes,
interest
I
rates are
mean,
pretty high.
yeah, I mean, we try to list as many offers as possible. Of course, we are constantly reaching out to new banks and new loan originators, and some of them have quite high rates, like the payday loans. Of course, they're very expensive because there's a high risk involved, and there were other loan originators which provide longer term loans with a lot better rates, of course.
So were you just working with what are they called, payday loans, or were you working with all types of loans?
All types of loans, and not even only loans, also investing accounts, saving accounts, money apps, everything related to the finance niche, basically.
No, I didn't know that. I thought
Hmm.
it's only these high interest rate loans, because
No, no.
those are a big thing in Latvia, and
Hmm.
we are not happy of them because
No.
it's a tricky industry that is kind of, it's a sleazy thing, it's a sleazy industry, and that's why I'm glad to hear that you guys were doing many things at the same time. Not only that, but then again, the beautiful thing is, I think that's for the money, is all these weird projects that maybe people don't think as much about. So how did you end up working in this industry? Was it something you were studying? Was it something you were interested in? Or was it just something where you saw an opportunity because your friend was doing that and you decided, fuck this is a good opportunity. I can work abroad. I can work while traveling, or what's the story there?
Yes, so the story started when I went abroad for the first time to Southeast Asia. I really caught the travel bug there, and I wanted to explore more of the world. And back at the time, I was studying for engineering, and I did a few internships at different places. I went abroad to Lisbon, to France, and I realized that the traveling part was great, and meeting the people and the new cultures, exploring the foods, etc. I really liked that, but I hated the engineering part of the job. So I realized that I really don't want to be an engineer, even though I decided to finish my studies because I think it's useful to just push through and finish the things you started. That's my personal philosophy. So I finished my engineering degree. I have a master's degree in electrical engineering. But after that, I realized, oh, I actually would prefer to be able to travel the world and not have to be an engineer. And I knew that if you want to start out as an engineer, you would probably need to go into a company and have like a normal corporate job and work your way all the way up to the top. And I didn't want to do that. So I was actually looking for solutions on how I could combine traveling and making money, because I spent half a year in Southeast Asia not making any money, which eventually you will run into money problems, right? You will run out of money if there is no income. So I wanted to marry that with being able to travel and earning money at the same time. So when I met this guy, we started talking about what he was doing, and he worked online, earning a full-time income, working from his laptop. And I was very curious about how he did that and what exactly he was doing. And so I asked more questions about that. And then I suggested him that, hey, if your CEO or boss has an open job offer available, please send it to me so I can apply. And I did just that, and it was a successful application. So that's how I ended up doing this job. But it actually didn't really matter for me what was the niche. Like, I didn't care whether it was finances or self-development or anything. The only thing I cared about was, is it online? Can I do it remotely? And can I travel while doing it? So that job offer met all those requirements for me. So that's why I decided to take it. But I have zero background in online marketing or finances. So I had to learn everything from scratch, basically.
So someone listening to this might think, well, fuck, I don't have a background in online marketing. I don't have background in finances. I don't know what affiliate marketing stands for. How the fuck do I get started? And how the hell did you get accepted when you went for this job interview, given that you didn't have your background neither in online marketing, neither in finance? So how did they accept you? Or were they looking for someone completely fresh, or what was the story there?
Well, so it was like a mix of both luck, opportunity, and proactive behavior, right? So the job offer was basically listing kind of like a personal assistant, where the CEO was looking for someone who could help him with like daily tasks, setting up his calendar, organizing his stuff, like all miscellaneous tasks. So it was not really super specific to the finance niche. But when I suggested we would do like a trial where he could hang out with me for a week and see if he liked me, because if you are looking for a personal assistant, then it's of course also very important that you get along with each other. And so he agreed on that, and so we met. And after a week spending time together, he told me that he wanted me to stay another week, and he wanted me to take a look into the Dutch market because my native language is Dutch. And so I looked at this project and I mentioned that the content is really bad. There's a lot of grammatical mistakes, etc., etc. And he told me that the person who was leading the project was not really performing well, so he was thinking about firing her anyways. And if I would be willing to take the project, overtake the project and take care of it myself, and of course I said yes. So it was basically like luck and also my proactive attitude, where so when I applied for the job, I sent a video to him instead of an email, and I told him all my strengths and weaknesses and how motivated I was to work online, etc., etc. So I was a little bit creative about it, I was proactive about it, and I really showed my intention. So I showed my intent, I really wanted the job, and I listed the things that would be adding value to him if he would accept my application.
So you had a deeper motivation why you want to do this job, why you will work hard in order to succeed, because you've seen Southeast Asia. You realize, damn, I need money if I want to do this.
Yes.
And so you did more, and you did more than what was required of you to apply, and you did it in a more creative fashion, right?
Yes, correct.
And when you had this conversation with him, so you were in Budapest, it was in person, right? The beginning.
So actually, so I met this friend in Budapest, but his CEO, his boss, he was in Tel Aviv in Israel. So I applied sending a video to him. We set up a Skype call. I talked with him. I suggested we would organize a trial period where I could spend a week with him, and then he could evaluate whether I was the right fit for the job or not. And so he agreed on that, and he booked a flight and he booked accommodation. So I flew to Israel to stay there for a week, work together with him. And by the end of the first week, he told me, I want you to stay another week and look into this project that is slacking off. Can you take a look? I said, of course. And then I stayed another week. I gave feedback about the project. And then by the end of the second week, he told me, I will fire the other person and you can take her place if you want.
So what was that week like when you went to Israel and you were hanging out with him for a week? What made him, what did you do that made him see you as a really good candidate for staying extra week and seeing how you would how you would do if you stayed a bit longer?
That's a great question, actually. And so I think that the main factors were absolutely my willingness to learn, my willingness to take his feedback seriously, my commitment to showing up on time, to over delivering, to respecting his time, to just overall being a nice person to hang around with. We went for dinner, we went for walks. I showed interest in him as a person as well, like not only his work, but also who are you on a personal level? What are the things that matter to you? What are your fears, your dreams, your ambitions? So I showed my interest in his personal life. I showed I was reliable. I showed I was respectful of his time. And I showed I was willing to work hard and to learn, because I told him that I don't have any background in finances, but I am a quick learner. So I am able to learn basically anything given enough time and attention, of course.
I will definitely send this recording once it's published to my little 18-year-old brother who who wants to work online, but he just can't. He's 18, so he, like, can't really figure out this shit yet, and kind of doesn't even know where to start. But your story basically shows that you applied for a simple position, for a position that you could get without qualifications. You over delivered when applying. You over delivered. You even said, hey, let's do a trial week, let's see how this works, which is, I think, a really good idea. And you
Mhm.
over delivered in a trial week, and you were doing anything you could, and more, to build
Yes.
connection with your boss, both
Mhm.
in work and outside of work. And you had a motivation. You had caught the travel bug, as you said before, and you
Yes.
knew why you wanted to do the online thing. So how
Yes.
did the transition? You start working there, you take over the person's job who wasn't doing as good of a job as the boss wanted. So
Mhm.
how long from that till you could do that remotely?
I mean, so after those 2 weeks, I came back to Europe, and quite soon after that, I came back to Budapest because the guy I met here who was working for this company, he lives in Budapest. And so I agreed on organizing some kind of way for him to teach me all the basics and to learn how I should use the systems and how I should do the necessary work. So he taught me the first week, or I don't know the exact timeline, but it's not really important. But he taught me the basics. And so almost right away after I started, I was able to do everything remotely. He just had to show me the basics. And whenever I had additional questions, I could just ask him. And I learned very fast. So it was within the first week of starting this project that I was able to work remotely.
So this friend of yours that worked in a company, was it his duty to show you around and teach you all the basics? Or
Yes, he was my team leader. So he just had the responsibility to show me what was the required action that I needed to take.
so you learned pretty fast about
Mhm.
things you didn't know about online marketing, about
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't even think it's worth talking about SEO secrets and or anything like that. It's just because your story actually is very different from what I imagined. You
Mhm.
just started in a really simple position and just over delivered, proved yourself. You learned very fast. Uh, so your team lead, was there anything maybe you did or you were thinking about when communicating with him to make sure that he's really interested in helping you as much as possible, and really helping you, yeah, just helping you as much as possible so you would learn as fast as possible? So that's one. Were you communicating in any way or treating him in any way different to encourage him, motivate him? Maybe you were being just as with the boss, nice and interested not in only just a job part, but also hanging out outside of work and thinking about things that are bigger than work.
Well, also again, a great question. And I think the biggest factor in that is the incentive of the company itself. So when you're a team leader and you're team leading another market, there is a profit share you receive if the market that you team lead is performing well. So there is an incentive for you to actually teach your other markets very well so they grow rapidly. So you actually gain a monetary benefit from that. And then next to that, of course, I was showing him my willingness to learn fast, and I was asking him a lot of questions, and I was also putting in the time and the work, and I took his feedback seriously. So of course that is a second great incentive for somebody to keep teaching you the things that they want to teach you, right? Like if you're a good student, then it's nice as a teacher to teach a student even more things.
So asking a lot of questions. Someone might listen to that and think, oh, well, I'll ask every little thing that I'm too lazy to Google.
Okay,
My team
yeah.
lead, and the team lead might not appreciate it. So how were you learning? How did you learn to ask good questions that he was happy to answer?
Yes, I mean, that's a very good remark. And I was actually going to say something about that. Of course, I will not ask every single detail about, oh, how do I place this word there? And, of course, there is also a level of self-sufficiency required. And that was also listed in the job offer, like you have to be self-sufficient. So I tried to figure out all the things by myself first. I tried, and then if I kept getting stuck somewhere, then I would ask a question, like, of course, every time a question arose, I would look for answers myself. And then, sorry, my headset died, so I will have to listen to the
Yeah,
speaker
yeah,
on my phone. Anyway,
no worries.
so um, where was I? Okay, yeah. So every time I
Self-sufficient.
the problem, yes, self-sufficient. Every time I had a problem, I looked for a solution, and whenever I couldn't find it, then I would ask the question. But I didn't rely on him always solving my problems. No, of course not, because I want to be self-sufficient myself. So I don't want to be this person who constantly needs to be holding hands with his superior.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I want someone to edit my videos, for example, and I want to train my little brother to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to show him a few videos that I've edited, and then I kind of want him to learn his own style of editing, where he would tell me, hey, I think this is like better way of
Mm-hmm.
editing, and where he comes up with ideas. And I don't need someone to physically sit and click buttons. I need someone to give me a video. I give raw videos, and I
Mm-hmm.
get a end product where, if I don't like something, he can either explain me why it's actually better, or I can teach him how I like it being done if that doesn't work out. And it seems like one of big things, I think, that helped you succeed was being self-sufficient, which is something a lot of people miss because before I started doing what I'm doing now, I was working as a business coach, as a team coach for smaller companies. And one of the biggest problems I saw business owners had in small businesses, in small companies, was getting their employees to do the job they were supposed to do. Because the
Mm-hmm.
employees would forget, would not understand, would not have time, would ask 17 questions that they could have solved themselves. And at the end of the day, the business owner was the one who had to do the job. And and they were willing to pay a lot of money if they found an employee that is self-sufficient, can learn on
Mm-hmm.
his own, and ask good questions. And even if he asks a question that's maybe not as good, he asks that question once, he learns, and is basically doing the work that the business owner is paying someone else to solve problems, not to click buttons. No one cares about clicking buttons. I mean, there are a lot of online jobs where you have to do really, really simple things, but that's definitely not the path you chose. Was When you started working with this team lead, was he viewing you as a great guy that in whom it's worth investing his time from the get-go, or did you have to somehow earn his trust?
Well, I was lucky enough to start out as great friends. Like when we met, we immediately hit it off together. So it was a natural progression in the friendship that we started to become colleagues as well. So he was both my friend, my colleague, and kind of like my superior. So he never doubted my motivation or my willingness or my self-sufficiency, because we were actually friends before we started working together. So that was a very fortunate kind of situation.
Okay, so I think guys will have a general idea, a pretty good idea about what skills and what actions got your foot in the door, what got you to earn the trust of the CEO, and then work with this team lead. I don't think it's really worth into going into the nitty gritty SEO stuff, because your story is about finding a job with a simple position, proving that you can do way more, and then climbing up the ladder really, really fast, I'd say. How long did you work at the company?
So from 2017 November until I think around maybe January this year. So yeah, 4 years, I guess, something like that.
Three and a half?
3.5, yeah.
3.5 years. Okay. And the big question: what made you come up with the decision to quit this job and start your YouTube channel?
Again, great question, and it's quite a long story, so I will try to keep it short. But what it comes down to basically is that I started to realize that the job I was doing was meeting a certain set of needs that I had, which was basically creating financial stability, allowing me to travel the world and not worry about the location that I'm in, working remotely, working independently without fixed hours and deadlines and stuff like that. But it was not really taking care of a whole other set of values that were part of me as a person. Who am I? What do I stand for? What are the values that are important to me? And those values were not being expressed in this job. So it was a very technical job that allowed me to make money online, but it was not a job that allowed me to fulfill my more higher needs, which were serving others on a personal level, creating content that would actually help people deal with more emotional problems rather than financial problems. And so I started to feel this discrepancy between who I actually am, what I want to do with my life, and what I was doing in a professional way. And so eventually I felt that I really lost motivation to continuing pushing this affiliate project because it was basically simply only about making money. And that is not something that you can sustain over an extended period of time. At least I couldn't. And hold on, my camera. Okay, wait, sorry. So I got interrupted. So what was important for me is that I wanted to do something that would fulfill my soul needs instead of only my material needs.
Okay. So, on what I wanna the last topic I would want to touch upon or cover a little bit. You lived around in several places in Southeast Asia. You've spent time in Mexico. You've spent time in Budapest. Where else have you spent extended amounts of time?
I lived in Colombia, in Bogota. I lived in Buenos Aires, in Argentina. I spent some time in Brazil. I lived in Australia. I traveled around for 1 month in New Zealand. I traveled around for 1 month in Iceland. I spent an extended period of time in different cities in Europe, like Lisbon, Barcelona, Rome, Paris. So I have lived in, I don't know, maybe a half of the world's continents. I haven't been to Africa. I haven't been to the US, only in New York, and I spent just a week there. So there is still a lot of places that I want to visit, but there's also a lot of places that I already visited, and I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity.
So, if someone starting their digital nomad journey, and I know this is like a very super broad and cheesy question. And we have to take into account that people have very different preferences. Some people will prefer Australia, others will prefer Mexico, and others will prefer New York City. And people who prefer New York City will be very, very different from people who prefer Tulum, for example, or like maybe not Tulum, but like maybe like Porto Escondido. Those people will be two very different people. But what would be the place you would suggest someone who wants to start his digital nomad journey chooses as a first destination to go to?
Definitely Thailand or Vietnam.
Interesting. Can you elaborate on why?
Well, it's safe. The infrastructure is good. It's cheap. It has good climate. It's beautiful. There is a massive digital nomad community there. The food is fantastic. Maybe I said that already. And it's just like it has an infrastructure that is almost like made for digital nomads. So you can meet a lot of seasoned nomads there. You can meet a lot of starting backpackers. You can meet a whole like range of people that are into exploring themselves and building their own businesses. And I think it's like an established community there, and it's less volatile, so it's quite like stable. So once you make the decision to start the digital nomad lifestyle, in the beginning you need a little bit of guidance, you need a little bit of stability, because otherwise it's just jumping into the unknown and it's so chaotic and all these distractions and whatever. But I feel like in Thailand and Vietnam there is at least some kind of structure, some more like guidance, and that can give you the necessary momentum to then find your way and then eventually start exploring other places which have less of a digital nomad community, but which might be a better fit for your personality.
Is there any other place that comes to mind with really good, established, and stable digital nomad community in the world?
I mean, Bali is also very popular, but that is very much focused on like spiritual entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of like yoga and meditation and spiritual teachers and stuff like that. So if that is your jam, then Bali is a great place. But if you are more into like business and affiliate marketing and SEO and you know, like more like the harder types of business, then I think Thailand and Vietnam are a better bet, like a better bang for your buck.
Okay. Wolfie, what's your plan for the next winter?
My plan for the next winter is honestly not decided yet. I might go back to Mexico, but I'm also contemplating going to Bali because I feel like Tulum is a little bit too ungrounded. There is too much escapism going on there, and it's fun for a while, but I also need some kind of like stability somehow. So if I can get to Bali, I will maybe go there. If not, I might look for another place. I'm not sure yet, but I for sure want to find a place that is beautiful so I can shoot beautiful videos, but at the same time that provides some kind of stability so I can create a nice routine to stay consistent with my channel.
Have you thought about other places in Mexico?
Um, Not yet, to be
West Coast?
honest.
West Coast? I'm thinking about West Coast.
Well, I mean, I'm open for suggestions, man. Like I have no fixed plan yet. So if
Okay.
you have great recommendations, I might actually consider going to the West Coast in Mexico.
Let's talk about it off camera,
Yeah,
so we
yeah,
don't
of
get too
course.
many people joining us. Well, man, I really appreciate you taking your time off and sharing your story, which was much different than I imagined. I think guys, if they listen really and try to understand the questions and I asked and the answers you gave, I think they will get out of this conversation way more than I expected, just because you showed your personality traits that you used and different skills you used to actually get this job and advance in this job and become successful in it. So thank you very much for doing this. So you have a YouTube channel. Anything you want to say about this to my listeners so they head over and check out your stuff? What is the one video they should check out first?
That's another great question. I really like the recent one that I recorded about imposter syndrome. Maybe it might be interesting for your crowd to look at that video. There is one that I recorded about being able to be alone versus feeling lonely. That might also be an interesting one to look at. So yeah, I have a broad range of self-development topics that I touch on. So there is a for anyone who is interested in these topics, I think there will be a video that potentially might resonate with them.
Okay, we will put a few links to a few videos in the description. Anything else you wanna ask my audience, or any other content you wanna point them towards, or yours or someone else's, doesn't matter, whatever you want.
Well, I don't necessarily want to point to specific content. I just wanted to share a small bit of my personal experience with changing from the digital nomad lifestyle that was built around making money and living the lifestyle to a more sole purpose centered business. I think it took me a long time to arrive at the point that I am now.
And I think that it can be important for your listeners when they are looking to start the online journey and they want to earn money online, that they also don't forget about their soul's needs, because probably at some point they will realize that, okay, what I've been doing right now is not really in line with what I want. And so maybe if I would have known what I know now, I would have started earlier with this YouTube channel, for example, because I can really feel that this is really in line with who I am as a person. And even though right now it's a little bit chaotic and I don't really have an income stream, I still feel that if I continue to do this, then eventually it will lead me to be even more successful because it is authentic to who I am as a person. And so maybe for your listeners, it can be useful to also take this into consideration when they're looking to start working online, so they find a place that actually matches who they are as a person and they can build on that.
Okay, I hope they do that. Thank you for this gem. Thank you for doing this interview. And bye.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I was very happy to hear from you, and I feel grateful that I could be on your show. So stay in touch, and maybe we'll see each other next winter.
If you like this interview, then obviously give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel. But the important thing is, a lot of the content I put out doesn't actually make it to my podcasts and to my YouTube channel, because I do interviews on many different channels and on many different podcasts. So if you want to make sure you don't miss other content I put out, make sure you are subscribed to my mailing list. I send out weekly newsletters with all the content I put out, and if at any time you become bored by them, you can simply unsubscribe. To do that, head over to saintrobert.blog and fill any of the forms on the website.